So, guys, have you ever imagined creating websites or web applications by just simply counting down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0? Well, introducing V0, the generative UI powerhouse by Vercel that turns your natural language or sketches into production-ready React code. So stop fighting with CSS and start bridging the gap between imagination and high-fidelity reality in seconds. One prompt, real software. And in this video, I'll be taking you step by step in terms of exploring what V0 is all about and what exactly you can build with it. I go by the name of Koketso Capfresh, and this is Billionaire Developers. Alright guys, so let's jump straight right into it and let's look at what we're going to be learning about today. All things Vercel, which is V0, one prompt, real software. So in today's video, I'll be covering what exactly is V0, who created it, the creators behind it, why is it that you should actually use V0, when to use it, who is it for, where to use it, and how to actually use it by showing you a real world example, and then finally closing it up. But before you start, let's jump into it. If you're new to the channel, you're probably asking yourself, what is Billionaire Developers all about? So Billionaire Developers is basically a global tech and an AI company that is focusing on teaching software development, AI, and in gaming. So if you are a beginner, someone that's already in the industry, or even someone that's just curious, definitely make sure that you like, you comment, and you subscribe to this channel, because there's definitely something that's new that you're going to learn in this channel. So without further ado, you're probably asking yourself, who am I? I go by the name of Koketso Capfresh. I am the founder of Billionaire Developers, as well I am the senior tech lead and the tech content creator on this channel. Some of my accolades is that I'm a 4-time certified software engineer. I am an international speaker and mentor, and I've worked alongside as well as partnership with Google, Microsoft, IBM, AWS, and the works. But this is not about you. It's not about me. It's all about you. So let's jump straight into it and ask ourselves, what exactly is V0? So as I mentioned, that V0 basically it is a generative UI system created by Vercel that turns your natural language into production ready React code. So what does that mean? It means that you can simply talk to it, right? So this is where prompt engineering comes in, where we simply talk to V0 and tell it what we want, right? The really cool thing is that V0 actually uses very modern technology, front-end web technology such as Next.js. And if you don't know, Next.js is actually built on top of React, and React is actually is a built-in library on top of JavaScript. So you can see that you've skipped all of that learning stage of learning React, learning JavaScript, learning Next.js, and all you have to do is just simply communicate with V0 as a pure beginner. The really cool thing about also V0 is that you can actually even turn your sketches from Figma designs, URLs, or even paint drawings, and it'll actually understand what you are trying to build. Now let's look at who actually created V0. As I mentioned, V0 is actually created by Vercel, which is the powerhouse behind Next.js. And I mentioned Next.js is actually just a library that is built on top of React, which is actually a library from JavaScript. And this is the man behind it all. This is the CEO. I'm not gonna try to pronounce the name before I butcher his name, but this is basically the CEO currently of V0. But most important question you're asking yourself is, why do you want to learn V0? And in today's day and age, we're looking at the real why for V0 is because the design taste and the framework is intelligent. And here's the reason why I mean that is that first and foremost, it is a design architect. While ChatGPT gives you like raw code, V0 actually processes the design taste, right? So it follows modern UX and UI principles like optical spacing, professional typography. These are the certain things you actually learn as a front-end engineer of what you need to learn, right? The Shadcn edge. So Shadcn basically it's a modern framework that a lot of front-end developers actually use for styling and making their websites look professional and make it look very minimalistic, very realistic, and so forth. And we also use Tailwind CSS, which is just another plugin from CSS. It has multimodal precision, right? So it doesn't just read text, it actually sees it, right? So it actually is able to interpret what you actually want to tell it. So as I said, this is perfect for designers if they actually want to build a prototype, or if you're a developer that's just have an idea of, something that is sketched out on either a Figma design, a wireframe, and so forth. And yet again, it has a conversational loop where you can actually interchange and actually communicate with it within the window period, right? So when is the best time to actually use V0? Well, first and foremost, if you're trying to build a prototype, a simple landing page, a simple idea, a simple concept, this is the perfect time to actually use V0. Now, the building systems. So when you need to generate a consistent set of buttons, cards, and inputs, and a brand new sets, V0 actually helps you also with the design aspect of things. And the really cool thing is that V0 works on a design to code principle. So when you have a screenshot or a Figma mockup design, what it will then do, it will actually turn everything into React components instantly. Right, so who is V0 for? Right, so I mentioned quite a lot about front-end engineers and front-end developers. That is actually quite true. So if you're a front-end engineer, this is the perfect place to actually learn more, or actually experiment more, and actually see how V0 can actually, you can leverage off. But it's only on about developers, even designers, right? So nowadays, designers now can actually implement an idea and actually give it to a developer to say, hey, I've sort of like built a prototype, and what you can do is then add additional functionality, add certain features, components to it. And also, yet again, it's also perfect for beginners, vibe coders, to say, is that even if you don't know how to necessarily code, you don't know anything about design, V0 is there to help you. You can actually just simply tell it what you want, send a picture, send a design, and it will actually do the heavy lifting for you. Now, where exactly do we actually use V0? So V0, it is a web-based tool, so you will need just some internet connectivity and your laptop or PC, and I will leave the link in the description below. So we've now come to the conclusion and find out so now we have gotten to the final conclusion, and this is the part where I like to call the developer's digest, where we sort of take a step back and just have a look and have a very broad idea to actually see what we have learned so far. So the future of web design is being written today, and with V0, you have the power to bridge the gap between imagination and high fidelity reality in seconds. This is where the struggle of fighting with CSS finally ends, allowing you to focus on the user experience rather than the syntax. AI no longer just is assisting the design process, it is accelerating it to a professional standard once reserved only for the top tier agencies. This is just the beginning of what we can build together. And like always, guys, don't ever forget to learn, explore, innovate, collaborate, and build. And if you've reached this far of the video, thank you so much, guys. Please make sure that you follow us on all our social platforms. Make sure that you like, make sure that you share, make sure you do subscribe to the channel, and don't just leave a comment. How's about you actually ask me a question so that we can actually keep the conversation going. And that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's jump straight into the live coding tutorial. All right, guys, so as you can see, I have now officially logged onto V0, and I will leave the link in the description. And first and foremost, just look around and see what V0 is all about. So yet again, you have a context window over here where you actually will be typing in your prompts. So what are prompts? Prompts is basically the conversation you will be having, or the instructions that you will be telling V0 what exactly you want to build, right? So it will ask you, what do you want to create? So you can even have simple, templates like a mini game, an image editor, financial calculator, a contact form. But if you're not even quite sure what exactly you want to build, V0 actually has certain templates that you can actually browse through, right? So you have a 3D photo, a 3D gallery photo templates. It has really cool, ideas and templates for you to actually just, play around and have for you to gain inspiration. It actually can create design systems. It has a agentic by default. So you can actually create your create from your phone. So it's also, you can also use it as well as on your cell phone, right? So the really cool thing about that, in this video I'll be showing you what exactly you can build by using simply the free tier, but also there are other packages that you can actually use which has benefits as well. So you have the premium, the team, the business, and the enterprise. But in this video, let's go ahead and start building by just simply using the free tier. And then what I want to do is just make sure that you do sign in using your email address. All right, so now that you've officially logged in, you will see on the left hand side, I do have a panel because I do use V0 quite often. But if you're a first time beginner, you might not have to, have all of these on the sides. So the really cool thing is, let's try to build a simple idea. So my current interest right now is construction, right? So how's about we actually tell V0 to actually create a construction company website for us? So we can say, can you please create a construction company website, right? So guys, one thing you need to understand is this is what we call prompt engineering. So prompts basically are conversations or statements that you'll be actually typing in the window over there, just telling it exactly what you want your website to be all about. But don't just tell it that you just want a simple construction company, right? And the really cool thing is, guys, even if you make a simple mistake or you make a spelling error, V0 works on something called an LLM, which is a large language model, which actually understands and comprehends what you are trying to do or trying to say. So even if you do make a spelling mistake or you make a typo, as you will see as I type along and make a couple of mistakes, V0 will actually be able to comprehend and understand what I'm trying to build. So guys, we can say that we are trying to build a construction company, but let's say I don't know really much about it. So what we can just tell it is, make this website as informative as possible, that we build schools, malls, houses, and let's just say we also build tech hubs, right? So another thing that we want to say is, guys, the more you actually become detailed with your prompts, the better your website actually turns out to be. So you need to feed it as much of information as possible, right? Be very, very specific, be very, very clear in terms of what you want, right? So in this website, we can actually start talking about what we want the website to do. So in this website, okay, so I want the following, right? So I can simply say I want a home page, actually just say section. We can have a about section. We can have a number 3, we can have a photo gallery, and then last but not least, we can have a contact section, right? So even if I make mistakes, I just want to actually show you guys that V0 can actually be able to pick up either mistakes or silly commas and punctuation marks, right? So then what I want to then talk about is the theme, the look and feel, right? So I want it to have a very engineering look, right? Engineering look, heavy on construction and concepts, I'm guessing. Concepts. I'm also thinking something that's more professional, right? Very professional, very modern, very high end, right? So we want to make sure that we it represents that it's got, high end quality. And most importantly, it shows real world examples, for instance, right? Cool. Another thing this is what I want to do is, my spelling today is somewhere else. Another thing in this, I want to now talk about the look and feel, right? In terms of the theme, like the color scheme. So if I can just say theme, I want something that's a bit, I'm guessing, what good colors go with construction. I'm guessing, even if I'm not quite sure what colors, I can just give it an example that I want this website to have modern construction colors, right? Construction colors. I'm thinking like, your browns, your grays, since you're working with soil, you're not really working with textures and stuff, but you can literally just describe it in terms of whatever you want. And I think last but not least, let's now tell it what the actions you want this website to do. So I want this to be, to have many transitions, effects, motions, movements, and I'm thinking particles. Let's see how that works, right? And now another cool thing is that even if I remember I mentioned that you can actually attach, sketches and so forth. So even if you don't have all of this, memorized, as you can see, I'm just thinking of an idea and I'm just engineering it as I move along, right? The really cool thing is that even you can actually check that I mentioned something called LLMs, right? So the large language models, you can actually see V0 is actually, utilizing Claude. Claude basically right now, it's just think of it as another version of ChatGPT or, Gemini. Yet again, it is using Claude as its base LLM, right? So what I want to then do is, I say, for instance, I want to sort of, attach sort of like some images, right? So what I then did is, I went ahead and I went to go get some assets, right? So remember, we working on construction. So what I want to then do is I want to attach all of these images. And what I want to then tell it is, use the images attached as inspiration, motivation, ideas to create the website. And I think just to end it off, the name of this website should be construction developers. That's the name I'm thinking about. Construction developers. All right. So if I then click on submit, let's then see what exactly is V0 going to now come up with. So the really cool thing is it has, a really cool processing mechanism. As you can see over there, it has a thinking block. So it doesn't just, take whatever you just said and just, create its own thing. It's actually really analyzing the whole prompt that you actually gave it, and it went through a thinking process. Now it's going through a design brief ready, and it's thinking again. So really cool thing is that you can actually monitor and see exactly what is happening in the background. So it's actually now working on the layout, it's still thinking, and it's working on some couple of files. So I think while we still wait and see what V0 is all about, let's sort of see how far, and the final result will happen afterwards. All right, guys, so it has finished actually loading, and let's see what V0 actually came up with. All right, so this looks pretty decent, so we have construction developers. Oh, this is actually quite impressive. It actually did exactly what I asked it to do. It has a home page. As you can see, it has a nice scrolling effect. If I click on the about page, it actually shows up, wow, 25 years experience. Okay. Obviously we could have used better pictures, but as you can see, it's got really cool transitions. If we click on the gallery, did I miss anything? Oh, it actually has more information. All right, it has our services. All right, let's start here. All right, so this is actually quite a decent, basic startup website. So this is basically, if you have an idea for a construction company, to actually show them, hey guys, this is, just an MVP, what I can actually just build for you on the fly, So I really like the look and feel. It has a dark theme towards it. I really feel like this is a very decent website. I really like the transitions between the images. Obviously, we can use better images for that. But the nice cool thing is that it really does listen to the instructions. As I said, we focusing on schools, we're focusing on malls, we're focusing on tech hubs, even commercial property, right? And I really like the fact, and this is just only by simply following a simple prompt. The reason why this website turned out to be so great is because, as you saw, that I fed it with a lot of specific details in terms of what exactly do I want, right? So guys, another thing is that you have to be very, very, very specific in terms of what you actually want. And to be quite honest, for a first time, this is actually quite amazing. So if we actually look on the side, V0 actually does explain to you step by step on terms of what exactly it was building, while it's still running in the background. So, there's a lot of analysis that's going on and on the side. So it was working on the hero section, the about section, the service section. If we scroll down, so that's why you have to be very patient. It actually ran into some issues that it actually debugged it for itself, right? So as you can see, it was it was actually, so this is all React Next.js components, right? So these are all elements that we use in Next.js as well as React. And guys, to be quite honest, just for typing in a simple prompt that was as detailed, I even gave it an example, to actually coming up with such something that's quite solid. This would take probably like developers a couple of weeks to actually perfect this. And as you can see, there's a lot of information that it can actually tell you, so you can actually do some modifications to it, right? So it has a lot of things that was working in the background, but I think you guys do actually get the understanding and then the look and feel in terms of what exactly is. And to be quite honest, the only thing I would just personally change is I would go out, maybe find much better quality pictures, or even ask V0 itself to generate all of these images for yourself. But to be quite honest, this is a very good example of how exactly you would be able to build a prototype, something that's so that's so beginner friendly as an MVP. And I really like the fact that you can even get into more details by linking all your social media pages. I mean, guys, I'm really impressed in terms of what V0 is, so these are all of the elements that a typical example of what you can actually use. And the really cool thing is that this is only based on a free tier. So as you can see, I have 4 messages left, and to be quite honest, the only thing that I would probably change is the images. But I personally feel like this is an amazing website. So even if I fully look at it this way, everything is aligned, everything is clean, everything is smooth. I like the transitions, the little images, even when I click on the buttons. Oh man, like this is a very, very good portfolio. It even has a filtering system, so even I can do schools, malls, houses, tech hubs, commercial. Honestly, what I feel is that this is a very good website, and this is only because my prompt was as detailed as possible. And the really cool thing of to finish this tutorial off is you can actually publish this website, right? So what you can actually do is you can actually look and see that, hey, um I want to actually sort of like publish and brand this, and in a couple of minutes you can actually, you know, send this link to a potential client, you know, in terms of adding this to your resume or your portfolio, and it will actually just generate a URL for us. And let's see, so if we open this up in another, okay, all right, so let's visit the site. Okay,